Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news. We advise you on what you can do about it. Today's broadcast is titled, What Do the College and University Protests in America Teach Us? Now, the first video that we would like to show in today's broadcast comes from an encounter that took place, a very political encounter that took place in Washington, D.C. about 2 weeks ago. In this particular video, we have the Columbia University president, Nimat Shafiq. She appeared before a congressional hearing on the Hill, and in this particular video, she is being questioned by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar out of Minnesota. Let's see that video.
I wanted to get a clarification earlier. One of my colleagues asked you, have you seen anti-Muslim protests on campus?
I have seen, we have had pro-Israeli demonstrations on campus.
No.
But
just
not
a protest that was against Muslims.
No, I have
Have you
not
seen one against Arabs?
No, I have not.
Have you seen one against Palestinians?
No, I have not.
Have you seen one against Jewish people? Have you seen a protest saying we are against Jewish people?
No, I have seen.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. There has been a rise in targeting and harassment against anti-war protesters, because it's been pro-war and anti-war protesters is what it seems like, correct?
Correct. There has been.
Okay, thank you. Activists on campus, including Jewish students, Black and Brown, Arab and Muslim students. How many of the organizations that were canceled in Columbia involved Jewish students?
One of the organizations is called Jewish Voices for Peace.
Yes, and encompassed of Jewish students?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There was there's been a recent attack on the democratic rights of students across the country. I was appalled to learn that in April, Columbia suspended and evicted 6 students for their involvement in the pro-Palestinian panel event on campus. It happened that all 6 students were arbitrarily targeted after the university brought in a team of private and former police investigators. These investigators harassed, intimidated Palestinian students at their homes, demanding to see students' private text messages, and sent threatening emails to the leaders of those pro-Palestinian groups. I would like to ask you to speak a little bit more to this situation, and ask you if you guys have utilized private former police investigators before, or is this the first time?
So this was a very serious case. We had students who, on an online
If you could shorten your answer, that would be really appreciated.
Of course, who invited people who were inciting violence, and that is unacceptable. And so we needed to get to the bottom of it. And so that's why we brought private investigators along with notifying the FBI.
How secure were you, these students that you evicted and suspended were involved? Did you do any investigation? Was there a hearing?
They refused to cooperate with the investigation. And so until they do so, they are suspended.
Okay, thank you. And then in January, there was an incident involving students that were protesting, that were attacked with a toxic chemical substance, leaving many hospitalized. A lot of them did not receive support from the school administrators. Can you speak to what is happening with the investigation, if you all are cooperating, and why weren't the students provided any support after they've experienced that attack?
So this is still with the police, and as far as we know, we think it was an odorous substance, and we did reach out to all of those students who said they were affected. Many of them didn't want support. We also
it took you guys more than 4 days to reach out to students.
No, I don't believe that's correct.
Okay, will you
actually.
respond, give me a written response with the fact that you all responded right away to those students?
Yes, I would be happy to do that.
All right, appreciate that. And it looks like there's been a lot of doxing and harassment that has taken place. What protections are a student being provided?
Yeah. We created a doxing resources group to support students. There were many students who were affected by this. Muslim students, Jewish students, and completely, other students. That group we had 90 students reach out to that group to get support in terms of both technical support, legal support, privacy scrubbing, and so on.
And before I run out of time, I wanted to ask what do your rules say about professors that harass students online, like Professor Shai Davidar has done, and professors who directly attack you as the president as a coward and a liar?
So, as president, I'm used to being attacked, but attacking our students is unacceptable. And in that case, we've had more than 50 complaints about that professor, and he is currently under investigation for harassment and
I would love a
discrimination.
follow-up on that as well. Thank you so much. I yield back.
Okay, that's a good starting point for today's conversation, for today's examination of this hot button topic. Without any further ado, we have a student that is joining us from New York City to shed a bit more light on what you just saw. Brother Sada, can you bring the student up, please? We can begin this conversation. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's good to have you with us. You are addressing an international audience. And this is this is an audience that is coming from a media organization based in Johannesburg, South Africa, but you have an international audience. You just saw the clip of Colombia's president testifying, just a small portion of her testimony on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. about 2 weeks ago. What are your thoughts? What is your reaction to what you just heard and what has transpired where you are since? And let's begin with you introducing yourself and where you're from. Can you hear me? Are you still with me? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You just cut out for a second, though. So I just missed the last part of your question.
Okay, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and just share whatever thoughts you'd like to share in response to what you saw from that clip and what has transpired where you are since. But let's begin with an introduction.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Gabby Ossie. I'm a second-year law student at CUNY School of Law, which is one of the only public law school in all of New York City. And listening and hearing and everything I've been hearing and seeing from the news around Colombia, and hearing that clip of the president of Colombia speaking it's a little jarring because I know that students are not getting the support that she claims they're getting. And I also know that there's been a lot of harassment of pro-Palestine students, Muslim students, Palestinian students at Columbia, whether they're in grad school or whether they're undergrads as well. So it's a little bit shocking, but at the same time, I know that the school is always going to protect themselves. The president's going to protect herself as well. So I would wish there'd just be a little bit more on the ground support and public support for the student protesters who are putting their life on pause and putting themselves on the line to protest against the genocide in Gaza and the whole Israeli occupation.
Describe for the audience what has been taking place where you are.
Mm-hmm. So I'm here at CCNY, which is the City College of New York, which is an undergraduate college, part of the CUNY school system. And there is a large encampment behind me. If you can hear a bit of the discussions that's going on, it's day 4 of the camp.
Okay, we're having a bit of a technical challenge because of where she is. Okay, we had a bit of a technical challenge.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's a little spotty here, but yeah. So we're here. There's an encampment that's taken over the middle of the quad of this historical college that's up in Harlem in New York City, and there's been teach-ins, there's been know your rights sessions, there's been community building. It's a beautiful and inspiring space, and so far the students have been able to keep complete control of the quad area.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've noticed at least 2 or 3 of the universities
Mm-hmm.
is the support that the students are receiving from members of the faculty. Are you receiving support on your end, and what does that look like?
Yeah, there's a lot of support from faculty members from all the CUNY campuses. There are CUNY campuses like grad schools, like different undergrad schools, and like the law school, all across the city. And there's been support from many, many faculty, staff, and admin. And it's inspiring and it's really helpful. The faculty, they're further in their career and they know so much and are so knowledgeable about how to keep us safe, and they've been out there too supporting our students in any way that they can, and we're really grateful for all of that.
Now tell me this, before all of this erupted
Mm-hmm.
in and outside New York City, the student protests that have just taken the global community by storm, north, south, east, and west in the United States, but also abroad. I've seen a lot of protests. I've seen encampments. I've seen various other resistance forms of pushback in different parts of the global community, especially the global West. Describe your how you came into this. Were you aware of the struggle of our Palestinian brothers and sisters, before all of this erupted, or was this your entree into awareness of this human rights issue that now has the attention of the entire world?
Yeah, I've been in the know, and I've been protesting for Palestine, I would say, my whole life. My dad's side is from southern Lebanon. My mom's side is Mexican with a lot of indigenous roots. So we have a lot of experience with like colonization and occupation, and Palestine has always been a topic in my family. We've always gone to protest for Palestine, against the Israeli occupation, and generally against just occupation anywhere, or just anti-war protests anywhere. So I've always been privy to what's been going on in Palestine. It's always been something I've been very passionate about and I've cared about because it's such an injustice. And so I've been a part of the protest aside before this encampment started popping up, protesting for Palestine for many years in my jobs. Before I went back to law school as an undergrad, I was a part of the Students for Justice in Palestine on my undergrad campus. And it's been a big part of my life, and I want to dedicate my career and any skills that I have to a free Palestine, and just however I can be a part of getting, information about Palestine out there. So yeah.
Okay, as a young veteran of this international struggle, what has this newfound for our nation awareness of Palestine meant for you, and what's happening in Gaza, and what has that meant for you, and what would you, as a final thought, and the contribution that you're making to today's program, and we thank you for this, what would you like for the viewers and listeners around the world to take away from what's happening there at CUNY and other universities in the U.S. and abroad?
Well, I think a big takeaway is just this is mainstream now. Palestine has in the past been kind of a taboo topic. It was controversial, so to say, especially in the West. And now it's finally mainstream. It's out there, and you can't deny that the Israeli occupation is brutal, it's horrifying, and it needs to.
Okay, we had another technical glitch. Let's see if we can get her back. Okay. If you're
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. We were operating under extraneous circumstances. You left us when you said, the occupation is brutal and etc. And this is something that the global community has now become aware of. Continue from there.
Yeah, and it's been really inspiring to me to see so many people that I grew up with, just like just your regular average American, now speaking out about Palestine and learning more about it and being very vocal and supportive and not holding back. That's what I find really has been a big change here, especially in the US. People aren't afraid to hold back. No one's afraid. The fear has really left many, many people. And I think the students encampments and protests and just the general community showing up for Palestine has been a turning point for the narrative. For so long, the West was always pro-Israel, and the news was pro-Israel. That's changed, and younger people, students, just out protesting aren't taking that anymore, and they're fighting back, and it's really inspiring, and I hope to see more of it.
Indeed. Inspiring indeed. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure, and we hope to have you back one day soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you speaking to me.
All right. Great. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. We're gonna go to a commercial break and then come back on the other side with some more challenging and uplifting information on this catastrophe that has unfolded abroad, that has now captured the attention of the entire world. Back in a minute.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Send food and send kindness to those who have lost their homes and have been plunged into poverty. For those who are a meal away from starvation, a food parcel means an entire family can eat this Ramadan. That's the power of food. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean El-Hajj Lodge, your true home away from home. El-Hajj is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that El-Hajj has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaitlodge.co.za.
Dad, these Frymax chips are so tasty. Wow, that really takes me back. My dad bought me a Frymax chips every day after school. They were my favorite when I was your age as well. Quality is at the very heart of what we do, and that's why we ensure that every Frymax packet is filled with the beautiful goodness and flavor-packed taste that you've come to expect from us since 1982. Frymax, from generation to generation.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
That young law student that just joined us, she and her comrades are an inspiration indeed. And I want to thank them on behalf of millions of folk around the world who deeply appreciate the struggle, the resistance, the outspoken principle that is being articulated throughout this stormy land of ours. With that being said, I want to share a piece of video from a press conference that took place on Columbia's campus not too long after the president made her appearance on Capitol Hill. There was a very showy press conference led by the Speaker of the House, a Republican, and his entourage to try to intimidate. And that's what that performance was all about. It was an attempt to intimidate those who would dare to speak out. Let's show that 18-minute presentation that the Speaker of the House delivered along with his comrades.
Institutions on a very important day and a very important time. Throughout history, Columbia students have contributed to the great storybook of America's life and thought. Visionary American leaders like Alexander Hamilton and John Jay and the Jewish leader Gershom Shashis knew the self-evident truth that was at the heart of this country and once at the heart of this university, and that is that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. They should not be infringed. The founders and the great leaders who had come through this institution in the past believed in religious liberty. They believed in democracy. They believed in morality and virtue and the dignity of every human person. They believed in the free exchange of ideas, and they detested mob rule. We are standing here right now on the steps of the Low Library. In this very building right behind us, Columbia University once awarded Winston Churchill an honorary degree, and it was Churchill who said, "It is manifestly right that Jews should have a national home where they may be reunited." We believe in that principle. And today I'm here to proclaim to all those who gnash their teeth and demand to wipe the state of Israel off the map and attack our innocent Jewish students this simple truth: Neither Israel nor these Jewish students on this campus will ever stand alone. Today, Hamas issued an endorsement statement of the protesters on this campus. They called them the future leaders of America. It is detestable. All of this has to be said because the cherished traditions of this university are being overtaken right now by radical and extreme ideologies. They place a target on the backs of Jewish students in the United States and here on this campus. A growing number of students have chanted in support of terrorists. They have chased down Jewish students. They have mocked them and reviled them. They have shouted racial epithets. They have screamed at those who bear the Star of David. Enjoy your free speech. They've told Jewish students who wear the Star of David to leave the country. And shamefully, some professors and faculty have joined the mobs. Things have gotten so out of control that the schools canceled in-person classes, and now they've come up with this hybrid model where they will discriminate against Jewish students. They are not allowed to come to class anymore for fear of their lives, and it's detestable. As Columbia has allowed these lawless agitators and radicals to take over, the virus of anti-Semitism has spread across other campuses. By some counts, as many as 200 universities have a similar form of protest right now. At Yale, a Jewish student was stabbed in the eye with a Palestinian flag, and 45 students were arrested. At NYU, pro-Hamas protesters were shouting from the river to the sea. Anti-Israel encampments are popping up at universities all across this country. The madness has to stop. The madness has to stop. We just left a meeting with students, Jewish students, who told us of the heinous acts of bigotry that they have experienced simply because of their faith. Their bravery is inspiring, much more inspiring than some of the activities we're seeing here. And they should never have to confront such hate on an American college campus. It's such a revered institution. Anti-Semitism has been growing in America, and it's clear why. Powerful people have refused to condemn it, and some have even peddled it themselves. From university professors to public officials, people in positions of authority have denied the horrific facts of September 11, 2001, the attacks on the United States that happened right here in New York City, and they've attempted to excuse or to ignore the barbaric attack of Hamas in Israel on October 7, 2023, where Israeli women and children were savagely raped and murdered, and infants were cooked in ovens. Crowds of radical activists have chanted death to America and on our own streets in this country, and some public officials have refused to condemn them. Others have openly defended these acts on campus and the harassing and the intimidation and the threatening of innocent Jewish students simply because of who they are. They've called that peaceful protest, and some have even gone as far as calling for the state of Israel to be eliminated. These are words we expect from ayatollahs in Iran, not American lawmakers and not American students. And unsurprisingly, it has given way to threats and violence in a generation of students who feel safe in their own classrooms, who don't feel safe in their own classrooms, or where they live or where they worship. Let me say this very simply. No American of any color or creed should ever have to live under those kinds of threats. That is not who we are in this country. Sadly, Columbia's administrators have chosen to let the threats, the fear, and the intimidation of the mob rule, to overtake American principles like free speech and the free exchange of ideas and the free exercise of religion. They have co-opted First Amendment arguments to protect genocide and to elevate the voices of anti-Semitism. They have proven themselves to be incapable of achieving their basic responsibility, which is keeping students safe. We just can't allow this kind of hatred and anti-Semitism to flourish on our campuses, and it must be stopped in its tracks. Those who are perpetrating this violence should be arrested. And I am here today joining my colleagues and calling on President Shafiq to resign if she cannot immediately bring order to this chaos. As Speaker of the House, I am committing today that the Congress will not be silent as Jewish students are expected to run for their lives and stay home from their classes hiding in fear. In the House of Representatives, we've already acted to address anti-Semitism on campuses. We have passed a number of statutes to address this matter, and we call upon the U.S. Senate to act upon our legislation. I have a couple of my colleagues here that I'd like to share a few words. I'll turn it over first to the chair of the House Education and Workforce Commission, Virginia Fox, Congresswoman Virginia Fox, North Carolina. Virginia?
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Columbia University is in a free fall. Following the explosion of this anti-Semitism, the Education and Workforce Committee started investigating. So far, the committee has uncovered key failures in the administration's response to the anti-Semitic attacks and displays embroiling this campus. First, President Shafiq presented false testimony to the committee regarding the removal of Professor Joseph Basad. No action was taken. In addition, the administration has suspended 2 Jewish students for a made-up chemical attack. So I have a message, President Shafiq, and a message for you all too. The inmates are running the asylum.
That's right.
Take back control of this once great institution. You took action last week. It's time to act again. If not, the committee will pursue every possible avenue to create a safe learning environment for Jewish students. I yield back.
Next is Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis from here in New York.
Welcome to New York City.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you very much for coming today. I'm so happy to welcome the Speaker to New York City, and we appreciate his leadership in coming here to condemn the anti-Semitism that has been allowed to fester on this campus. We just met with a group of students who told us that not only have they been bullied, but they've been, many of them, assaulted. They have been spat on. They have had to walk the halls of this campus to see swastikas painted. These are clear examples of anti-Semitism, and it's shocking to see that it's happening in the most diverse and welcoming city in America. It is truly outrageous, and it's clear that the president of this university cannot control the campus. She cannot and will not hold students who are doing these types of anti-Semitic activities accountable, and that she cannot keep the students who are of Jewish faith, who have paid a lot of money and have worked very hard to get to an Ivy League institution like this, that she cannot keep them safe. And that is why I join my colleagues in calling for her resignation. Thank you.
Next, another congressman from New York, Anthony D'Esposito.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you are a protester on this campus and you are proud that you've been endorsed by Hamas, you are part of the problem. When you cheer on the fact that you enjoy Hamas and Hezbollah, you are yourself part of the problem. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to join with you here today in calling for the immediate resignation of the President of Columbia. She has failed her duty. She is not keeping students safe. And we see on this campus the hate-filled speech that is carrying through this country.
Another New York congressman, Mike Lawler.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for being here in New York. I want Palestinians to be free, too, from their oppressor, Hamas. And every single one of you students that support Hamas are an absolute abomination. It is shameful, shameful that you would support a terrorist organization that butchered and beheaded and burned innocent women, children, and babies. I went to Israel a month after the attack on October 7th, and I watched a 21-minute unedited video, raw footage of the attack. I watched exactly what Hamas did. And sadly here in America, we have students endorsing the butchering and brutality of a terrorist organization. If you want a ceasefire, the fastest way for a ceasefire to occur is for Hamas to surrender and to release the hostages. And if you can't call for that, You are a pathetic embarrassment to this institution and to students everywhere. It is time for President Shafiq to resign in disgrace. She has lost control of this campus. She has lost control of this institution. And after listening to her comments inside, it is clear that she has no intention of getting this university under control and ensuring the safety and well-being of every student. That is what is entitled to students attending this institution. If the students are not safe, if the institution will not act, Congress has a responsibility to do so, and we will.
That's right. Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleagues for sharing their thoughts here. I want to say this as well. At the start of the American Revolution, the doors of this institution, once known as King's College, were closed. When the war ended, the institution reopened and was renamed Columbia College. It was a shift from the tyranny of the monarchy to the freedom at the heart of the American experiment. And now the forces of hatred and oppression once again are on the march. They've begun to try to close Columbia's doors to a segment of students. To every Jewish student listening to us, no matter where you are around the country, you have my word. The U.S. House of Representatives will do everything in our power to ensure that you are safe, you can freely practice your faith, and you can go to school, just like everybody else. We will punish those who have allowed this violence and bigotry to go unchecked. With that, I'll take a few questions.
Mr. Speaker, what about the anti-Zionist Jews in the camp celebrating Shabbat?
We met briefly with the president and her top officials right before we came out on the steps here. We encouraged her to take immediate action and stamp this out. And our feeling is that they have not acted to restore order on the campus. This is dangerous. This is not free expression. This is not First Amendment. They are threatening, intimidating, saying that they will take violence upon Jewish students. We met with Jewish students who are in fear. They can't come on campus. They can't study for their final exams. This affects everybody's lives, and it affects the image that we portray to the world. This is not who we are as Americans, and it's time to act like it.
Speaker, have you spoken to the president about bringing in the National Guard? A number of senators have done that. Are you urging the president to do that as well?
My intention is to call President Biden after we leave here and share with him what we have seen with our own two eyes and demand that he take action. There is executive authority that be appropriate. If this is not contained quickly, and if these threats and intimidation are not stopped, there is an appropriate time for the National Guard. We have to bring order to these campuses. We cannot allow this to happen around the country. We are better than this. We are better than this, and I'll ask the president to do that, and I'll tell him that very same thing.
Speaker, what is the House going to do? So you've moved some things, you've done, what is your plan when you get back?
The House has been investigating a number of these campuses. There is a nexus to federal funding. If these campuses cannot get control of this problem, they do not deserve taxpayer dollars. That's a very serious issue. You've seen our Education and Workforce Committee having oversight hearings. We have brought the presidents of these universities to Congress to testify under oath, and you've seen accountability begun there. There'll be much more of that. We'll continue to work on legislation to adjust this at the federal level. This Congress, and I genuinely believe there's bipartisan agreement on this, will stand for what is good and what is right. It does not matter who shouts in our faces. We're going to do what is right by America. We respect free speech. We respect diversity of ideas. But there is a way to do that in a lawful manner, and that's not what this is.
Mr. Speaker, what do you want them? So there are students, some of the student organizers are part of a group called Jewish Voices for Peace. There are Jewish students who held a press conference yesterday saying that they faced more anti-Semitic attacks from Jewish students, from Israeli students, than from the group that is in the capital. So how do you respond to the fact that they say
I'm not sure who the aggressors are, but I will tell you that any of that is inappropriate. It's lawlessness. It's chaos. That is not who we are. We believe in the rule of law. That is one of the foundational principles of America, and it must be maintained. The college campus used to be the place for respectful debate, for the differences of opinion and the free marketplace of ideas to be discussed. That is not what is happening here. You're intimidating and shouting down people you disagree with. You cannot censor and silence viewpoints you disagree with. That is not American. You do not understand what it means to respect the First Amendment. Yes.
What is your message to the students inside the encampment right now?
My message to the students inside the encampment is go back to class and stop the nonsense. Look, if we want to have a debate on campus about the merits of these things, let's do that. But you can't intimidate your fellow students and make them stay home from class. Think about that. Is that right? Do you think that's right? Stop wasting your parents' money, Congressman Lawler says. I think that's right.
Mr. Speaker,
Last
what
one.
about the anti-Zionist Jews inside the camp that are celebrating Shabbat?
I don't know who's in that camp over there, but I would tell you that this is unacceptable, and the American people are demanding accountability for it. And that's why we made the trip here today. That's why this press conference is important. We want this administration and the administration of every university campus around the country to bring this to account and to bring this lawlessness to an end. And that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Okay, these are my takeaways from what the Speaker of the Zionist-controlled House of Representatives had to say. Among other things, he had the audacity to hypocritically denounce mob rule. And this is unfortunately something that we have seen much too much of. With regard to the policies that have led to this catastrophe that we are witnessing right now in occupied Palestine. It's political mob rule. So that's point number one. Point number two, he referenced in laudatory terms one of the most notorious war criminals of his era, Winston Churchill. Point number three, he defended an artificially created colonial settler state and said nothing about its genocide before the eyes of the world. Next point, he shamefully repeddled the propaganda lies of October 7th. He and one of the other speakers, lies which have already been disproven by facts, and still they're regurgitating these lies. He threatened to remove taxpayer dollars from institutions that allow anti-Israel protests while leading an institution that sanctions anti-Palestinian genocide. And he was justifiably heckled and booed throughout his shameful performance, he and his associates. With that being said, what we'd like to do now is go to another commercial break. But before we do, just before you go to that commercial break, Brother Sadiq, there is a 1 minute historical summary video of student protests in America. Let's see that 1 minute video and then go straight to the next commercial break.
Four students sitting in at the store's all-white lunch counter spread to 64 cities.
You're upset about a rock going through a glass window.
But you're not upset about people dying in Vietnam.
We've got to get some order back. The students have overstepped bounds.
Leave this area immediately. Are we ready to keep going? We'll be arrested and charged with trespassing.
What the fuck are you doing? We're being occupied by radical Islamist theology.
Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities.
When you are arrested, dragged down and zip tied, that is what being unsafe is.
Students pitching tents, spreading on college campuses.
They will make all possible steps and policies to say that you are wrong.
These laws and these systems were not made for people who look like us.
After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with many appeal organizations in Gaza.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
In the Eastern Cape, children are facing unimaginable hunger. A baby was rescued, fed only powdered drink. A young girl lost her life searching for food. Children eat grass to survive and return to school on Mondays too hungry to learn, some even crying from hunger. Teachers and principals are giving what little they have, but it's not enough. This Ramadan, you can make a difference. Help us support Muslim families in Gqeberha and rural Eastern Cape. Together, we can feed hope, fight hunger, foster change. Donate to the Al-Fida Foundation. Send your proof of payments to admin@alfida.co.za for Section 18A tax certificates or contact us on 041 484 1288.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Okay, next, I'd like for us to go to a video that just came to my attention yesterday. We wanted to have the young brother himself on the broadcast, but we were not able to get him. So we're going to play the video that was brought to my attention. It's 7.5 minutes long. It's out courtesy of Al Jazeera, and the young man, he's a student at Cornell University. His name is Mamadou Tao. Let's see that video, Brother Tariq.
PhD student at Cornell University. You're an organizer with the Cornell Coalition for Mutual Liberation. So you're one of those people who are protesting in support of Palestinians. You've been suspended by your university, by Cornell, this week for taking part in an anti-war protest on campus. You're joining us from New York. What happened?
Yeah, so in the early hours of Thursday, we set up an encampment in which we call Liberated Zone. About 4:30 a.m. Thursday morning, our encampment was established, in which several dozens and later on hundreds of students joined us. We're saying that we no longer have faith in the administration to be a place safe for Muslim students, for Arab students, for Palestinian students, and by large, those students of color, and then those people who are pro-Palestinian in voice, pro-Palestinian students, right?
Mamadou, sorry to interrupt, but that's important. Why do you say Cornell is no longer a safe place for, say, Muslim students? Is there any evidence of that?
That's a great... Absolutely. So just about 2 weeks ago, it was off campus, but our campus is very attached to the community. And the person I believe who was found guilty was another student. A Muslim woman with hijab had her hijab ripped off and spat at. We've had death threats. We've had people, whilst we're praying Salatul Jummah, we've had police videoing, taking pictures of us. Whilst we prayed in the mosque area place on campus, we've had other students taking pictures of us to dox us. Many of our Palestinian and Muslim students are now on Canary mission.
Are these things that you've seen yourself? Are these things that you have seen yourself, witnessed yourself?
Yes, yes. So I definitely at the places of Jummah I've seen myself. For example, we had threats. So for example, in October, in the immediacy after October the 7th, what happened was we had someone unknown to any movement, an agitator, literally posted disgusting threats toward the Jewish community on campus. Similarly, on the same page, on the same day, we had violent threats of sexual assault directed and targeted at Muslim women who wear hijab. The administration mobilized. The FBI, the administration, brought people in to protect one community and did not do another community.
Okay, well, look, that's really interesting because, I know that you know this context. There have been accusations of anti-Semitism within the student protests. Some of it has been documented and some of it is proven to have happened, of anti-Semitic slurs, et cetera. And what you're telling us is that you've seen this go both ways. So you set up the encampment. Let's continue the story of what happened to you. You set up the encampment because you no longer trust the university to keep this a safe place for Muslim students. Then what happened?
Then about 7:20 a.m., administration walked out and said, basically, you have until 1 to, because you're no longer in policy. And, they had a procedural aspect. Oh, apparently the person who had booked the room did not mention encampments, even though the person who had booked the room was unaware. This was a prior booking to the encampments. We went into negotiations with administration. Administration asked for our position. Our position was we have about 8 demands that addressed first and foremost, for example, indigenous rights. We have an example of settler colonialism, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, calling for Cornell to divest from weapon manufacturers, and calling for Cornell to recognize its complicity in settler colonialism here and in Israel, calling for academic boycotts and dissociation of partnerships. These are our demands, right? 1 o'clock happened. Then about 7, we were told that unless you are in student compliance of policy, you will be removed or you'll be subject to arrest and suspension. That was the conditions. So by 8 o'clock, we had a
pause there for a second. And I'm sorry to keep interrupting this because I want to make sure we get the whole story. And you've shared with us the letter that you've received from Cornell. You've been suspended, by the way, as a result of all of this. You have been suspended from campus. You can't go to classes. You can't take exams. You can't be on campus. You can't even use the cafeteria there unless you get some kind of exemption. They say that on the day you're describing, they told you multiple times you were protesting in an area that is not designated and approved. There is another area that is approved and authorized for that. Go to that area. They say they told you, that they warned you that if you didn't comply, you might be suspended, and that you still didn't comply. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, the framing of the letter, we can disagree, right? So when it came down to moving, where they want us to move to is a place that isn't visible. They want us to move to a place that doesn't have. They want us to move to a place where they can contain the people and contain the movement and it not to be, quote unquote, a nuisance on campus, right? So again, the framing of where they want us to move, we picked the place specifically for visibility and to grow and to show the student population that this is a safe space for students of color on campus. Where they and even when they said that, they said, we said you can move, and they gave a caveat for up to 1 week. And the term up to 1 week is very slippery language, right? Because it doesn't say you are guaranteed a week. They're saying that until we no longer deem it fit for you to be here, we will tell you to leave. That was what they said.
So this is potentially very serious as a consequence for you. You are temporarily suspended. What happens to you now? Do you know?
I'm waiting to hear back officially, but what I do know, what some of the consequences is that I will have to repeat a semester. I might not get paid over the summer. I might have to graduate later than expected. This semester that I'm taking, and I've tried to work somewhat hard and missed everything else, may not count to my degree and I have to repeat it. So that's quite a serious thing. And they targeted, in my understanding, people who are in precarious positions, such as students on visas. So I am on a student visa.
What makes you think they did that?
Myself, so we have me and you have another grad worker, a colleague and comrade of mine, who was also targeted, who's also a foreign student, whilst the other two was also visible faces. So it seems like the tactic we've deciphered is they're targeting visible people and people in precarious positions. Why I think that's the case? Because people, I mean, they targeted 4 suspensions, right? I've not done anything extraordinary than anyone else on the encampment. There's been people who have been by my side every step of the way since the encampment has started, and they've not targeted them.
Okay. All right. Listen, that's really interesting. And, you know, there have been multiple cases. Every case is a little bit different, but there have been multiple cases of students who've obviously had very serious repercussions for their involvement in protests. I would point out that Cornell, in the letter they sent you, say that it implies that one of the reasons this is happening to you is because you were a representative of the participants at the protest. I understand you disagree with the language and with what's happening, but I had to point that out. Mamadou Tal, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
I want to thank and truly applaud Brother Mamadou and other students like him. I mean, it's really something to think that you have a significant number of students who are on student visas here in the United States. And the weight of this oppression that they are witnessing taking place in occupied Palestine has been such that they have felt the need to lend their voices to the call for this to stop, and to do so at potential threat to themselves. I really applaud these students that are standing up and speaking out the way that they are. Now, subhanAllah, we are really winding down in terms of time. So some of what I wanted to include in today's broadcast, we're not going to be able to include, but let me add this. An advisory was issued by the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, that is very important to share the contents of this advisory. Their message reads as follows. Today, we sent an open letter to college and university presidents across the nation outlining 5 basic guardrails to ensure freedom of speech and academic freedom while protecting against discriminatory harassment and disruptive conduct. Number 1, schools must not single out particular viewpoints for censorship, discipline, or disproportionate punishment. Number 2, schools must protect students from targeted discriminatory harassment and violence, but may not penalize people for taking sides on the war in Gaza, even if expressed in deeply offensive terms. Number 3, schools can announce and enforce reasonable content-neutral protest policies, but they must leave ample room for students to express themselves. Point number 4, schools must recognize that armed police on campus can endanger students and are a measure of last resort. Point number 5, schools must resist the pressures placed on them by politicians seeking to exploit campus tensions, like what we saw a few minutes ago in the video of that congressional delegation that visited Colombia. Now, for the sake of time, what I'd like for us to do is we wanted to show a piece of video of Sami Hamdi, addressing the fact that there are Muslim leaders who could have stopped this genocide from taking place. We're not going to show that video, but I will include the link to this video of today's broadcast that we send out. We will include the link to Sami Hamdi's remarks. What I'd like for us to do now is to conclude with a couple of short videos. One of that was brought to my attention by ILIA, the Islamic Leadership Institute of America, and there's also another video that featured a faculty from one of the universities, and I believe this was one of the universities in the South, that formed a ring of protection around students. This was a large body of Muslim students who were praying. And then there's a thought-provoking photo that I'd like for us to show at the very end. So again, we'll end with a couple of very short videos, and then that photo after I deliver my closing dua, the verse from the Quran that I normally end with, and that is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wal asr, innal insana lafi kusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati, wa tawassaw bil haqq, wa tawassaw bis sabr, which means, in translation of the meaning, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except for those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. On this note, we're going to close out, and please show what you have, Brother Sadiq, to close out the broadcast with. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.
That humanity has failed you in so many ways, and that you may never find it in your heart to forgive us anymore. They have stolen your land and forced division among your people. Air, land, and sea blockades on a tiny strip with high fences and cameras pointing at you 24/7. 80% of the water is undrinkable. 70% of your people are food insecure. Poverty, unemployment, and children suffering from PTSD. 12 hours of daily power cuts, home invasions, unjust detentions, and shooting of innocent civilians. And all of this was happening before the 7th of October, but the world was not watching. Now we do. We amplify your voice, boycott, and march for your freedom.
Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina!
And still, we feel that we're not doing anything. But you did.
You Gazans have liberated the United States of America. There's things I couldn't say that I can say now.
You showed us that the world is unfair, that their human rights are all lies, that their international laws are non-existent, that leaders are just puppets under one system, that heroes don't need capes, that resistance is the only way to gain freedom, that in this world, everything seems dead, except for the Palestinians.